Hey everyone, James Lynch here doing a quick reaction video to the news that UFC featherweight Isaac Dulgarian has been released from his contract. This according to Ariel Helwani last night. We'll go through some of the tweets. If you guys haven't been paying attention, I did a video on this already. There was a lot of shady stuff that went into that loss that Isaac Dulgarian had over the weekend. This is definitely tied together. So let's go through the tweets and I'll give you my thoughts on everything else. So from Uncrowned, Ariel Helwani, Isaac Dulgarian has been released by the UFC, sources tell Ariel Helwani. Dulgarian was submitted Saturday night by Yair Deville, and the bout has been the center of controversy after a ton of money started to come in on Dulgarian to lose in the first round. Again, I have a video on this. I'll post that in the description. Again, Ariel had some tweets earlier saying he was released. Official reason was attributed to last night's loss. However, that bout has been the center of controversy after a ton of money started coming in. A sizable favorite to lose in the first, which is what happened. There's a story all on Uncrowned. Much more on this and the other wackiness on at the top of the show. So Ariel will address this tomorrow. Dulgarian was 1-3 heading into the fight last night, with his lone loss being a split decision to Christian Rodriguez. And I referenced that in the other video. I just wanted to show people about that last loss. That was, in 2024. A lot of people felt like Dulgarian won that fight against Christian Rodriguez. So I've heard some people try and argue like, oh, Dulgarian wasn't that good. This isn't a big deal. He clearly won the fight previously. That's what makes this fight so weird, was the fact that Dulgarian, again, the money's coming in. Dulgarian was a favorite going into the fight. He, had looked good in all of his fights, even in this one. He looked good. A lot of people felt like he did enough to get the decision here. And then he gets finished in the first round. That's why it's such a bad look here. I see all these people giving me different examples like, oh, this happens all the time. But again, with Dulgarian, there was a lot of promise there, really good prospect in the division. And they're not just going to cut a guy after 2 losses, unless like you miss weight or something bad happens. Like Ariel clearly says here in the tweet, this was related to the shadiness of what happened in that fight. I got most people watching my video the other day on Dulgarian were kind of like, yeah, this seems really weird, with the fact that I think the thing that really caught my eye as far as the whole situation was the fact that we had sportsbooks offering credits, essentially not refunds, but offering like wagers to people that had bet on this fight. And we're talking not just like regular sportsbooks. We're talking like William Hill, Caesars. I heard Circa pulled some lines as well. I heard DraftKings pulled some prop lines. Like, this doesn't happen often. I don't know why there's so, there's a chunk of people out there trying to defend this and be like, nothing bad happened, nothing shady at all. But they clearly did if the UFC's releasing him. Like, what more proof do you need? I've heard people talk about the Lucas Almeida and Michael Aswell fight. Yes, there was some line movement there. But again, what you didn't have was books come out and offer credits for the fight or things along those lines. There has been some weird stuff going on this year. Actually, one tweet I wanted to grab here, Harry Mack, and this is something to keep in mind too. Harry's been on the ball with a lot of this, the betting stuff. He had something to mention here. I want to give a shout out to his account. Let's find some of the tweets here. Where is it? Sorry. He said something about the FBI now. Okay, here we go. He says, very important tidbit here. The FBI notified the UFC of the abnormal action and live movement, gave them hours to pull the fight. They chose to continue. So there could be some stuff going on here. Again, nothing confirmed, but this is also the thing I was referencing where Caesar had actually pulled or actually given credit as well. So that's something to keep in mind here. But Harry, according to Harry, and again, nothing has been officially, confirmed here, but Harry claims that they're looking into a number of fights here. Let me just find the tweets here. Yeah, it was actually right under Ariel's tweet here. Let me find it right there. Harry was on here. There we go. Update. Federal regulators have flagged over 100 UFC fights this year for abnormal betting patterns, including 2 additional fighters on last night's card. Stuff's about to get very ugly. Still working on to confirm, but sounds like the feds are moving to audit Herzog's fight. So Jason Herzog. So something to keep an eye on. Again, nothing is confirmed here, but Harry is someone that has been on, really, tweeting about a lot of this stuff, adding some different information in here. I don't know his sources or anything along those lines, but just something to ponder as well. Is this going to lead to something bigger? Remember, I wanted to remind people, and I said this in the last video, like when the whole stuff with James Krause went down, there were sports books that would not offer any UFC wagers whatsoever because they were worried about the integrity of people betting. So I remember in Canada, for example, like DraftKings and I think a few of the other, I think it was DraftKings or FanDuel, I can't remember, were just like not offering UFC fights at all. That's what the UFC wants to avoid here. They don't want to have something like this come up. So even though Dulgarian gets released, I'm curious to see over the next little bit, is there going to be other stuff that they're going to look into? Another fight that I referenced in my last video and is kind of along the same lines is the Jared Gordon and Rafa Garcia fight, where we find out after the fact that Jared Gordon got in a car accident the day before, and that certainly affected his performance in the fight. I've also heard some people mention this as well, and I'm going to address this in this video too, because it kind of ties together. You know, people talking about, hey, fighters aren't getting paid what they should be getting paid. If you're injured and you're not fighting, you need a paycheck. Like, don't blame Dulgarian for doing this. That is an issue. I will address that. I don't think this is the way to handle it. I don't think people should fight when you're totally compromised. Look, every fighter going into a fight is not 100%. We know this. The issue is somehow this information got out that Dulgarian was compromised and people bet, and that's what caused the shitstorm, so to speak, right? Like, we've had fighters that have clearly gone into fights that they were compromised even before the bell started. That sucks. Nobody wants to watch that. I do have empathy for fighters like a Dulgarian who has a family, who needs to pay bills. I understand all that, but yeah, there's got to be a different way here. Maybe the UFC can set something up where if you're not fighting, they can at least take care. Like, I don't know the ins and outs of, and I'll be completely honest, I don't know the ins and outs of if you're injured and you can't fight and you need the money, like, what is the solution there? But this is, anytime you're leaking insider information, whether it's a fighter injury, if you're affecting the line, like it clearly did in this case, that's going to look bad as a whole on the company you're working for, and it's not going to look very good. So, yeah, like I said, like, I understand Dulgarian's position. I'm assuming again that, he definitely like again, I don't know what he did or how this information got out. They're going to look into all this though. And you look at a guy like Jeff Molina, he's basically been blacklisted from the UFC, James Krause. Like, this could ruin Dulgarian's career for what happened here. And obviously some information got out with the simple fact that, again, you've got these sports books offering credits. The UFC has released them. They're trying to get ahead of this. So the question I have is, what's going to come out of this further? Are we going to see other fighters involved, coaches, whatever? I mean, we just had this big thing in the NBA, and think about the NBA, right? Like, that whole scandal with the NBA players, if you go research it and look it up, I mean, these are players that are getting paid quite well. I think one of the guys involved was getting like $25 million a year or something along those lines, and he still was gambling. So if they're doing it, when you consider how much money they're making, you don't think there's going to be UFC fighters involved in doing this with how they're not even close to being paid like that? There could be. I could understand that with the fact that they're getting paid way less than other professional athletes. I'm not saying it's right, but I also understand that it could potentially happen here. My whole thing with the fighters is, did you not see what happened to James Krause, Derek Minner, Jeff Molina, that whole situation? Like, to potentially have your career ruined, it's too much of a risk, in my opinion. So yeah, we'll sort of see what happens. Again, there's been no release statement by Dulgarian. I doubt Dulgarian's doing any media right now because of the fact that there's probably going to be other parties involved here. I'm curious, like Mark Montoya, his coaches, is anyone going and talking to them? Did any of that get leaked out? Like, who knows how far this goes? But this could be like a total can of worms. And like I said, the big sort of hammer that's dropped here now is the fact that Dulgarian's been released. So all the people in the comments on my other video, can you please acknowledge this? Why would they release Isaac Dulgarian if nothing fishy was going on? There's been a few people in the comments, like, viciously defending Dulgarian, being like, nothing happened. You're making too much of a big deal of this. Oh, or how about the crowd of the people that are saying that, like, oh, I knew Dulgarian was going to lose. That's not the point of the video. The point of the video and this entire situation is that there was insider information leaked out. People then rushed to bet DeVille in this fight, and it caused this big controversy. It's not whether you thought DeVille won or not. It's also not it's not right to say that Dulgarian has is not guilty and then he's just not a good fighter. Like, none of that. It doesn't matter. The facts are the facts. Let's go over the facts. The facts are, he is released. Sportsbooks were offering refunds. There was line movement. That is not something you see in every single fight. So you can bring all the examples you want in the world to me. The only example that's similar to this is the Derek Minner and what was it? Who, I can't remember who his opponent was, but it wasn't Machate. It was Nuremberg, I think, was who he fought in that fight. I'm going to go look it up because someone in the comments is going to be like, this is who he was fighting. Which, by the way, they never overturned that fight. Well, I mean, Minner lost anyways, but yeah, what fight was it? It was, Nuremberg. That was the fight. November 2022. I mean, we're talking almost 3 years ago, and now we're getting a similar incident. Very, very crazy stuff there. So I want to know what you guys think in the comment section below. Do you think more stuff is going to come out of this with other fighters or maybe even people involved in this situation? What do you think is going to happen? Let me know in the comments. Follow me on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, @Lynch on Sports. My name is James Lynch. Appreciate you guys watching, and I'll talk to you guys soon.